All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, it's safe to say that the Eastern Conference semi-final series that just concluded between the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks was indeed a war of attrition. This was a gritty battle in every sense of the term as the Seas dug down deep to eliminate the defending NBA champions and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the fourth time in the last 6 years. This was a back and forth series throughout with two quality teams going at it, and nobody wanted to give an inch as both teams were looking to advance to the conference finals. The defense of the Celtics got the best of Milwaukee coming down the stretch in this series as they held the Bucks under 100 points in each of the last two games. And in Game 7 today, Giannis was 10 of 26 from the field for 25 points as Boston simply frustrated him and they frustrated this Milwaukee team as a whole. The Bucks today were 4 for 33 from behind the 3-point line, which is a sign of good defense, which you saw from the Celtics, but it's also a sign of fatigue because a lot of those shots are coming up short, and that is to be expected in a game 7 of a series, especially one that has been as tightly as contested as this one was right here. A simple back and forth affair, and you know what? The Celtics simply just dug down and found a way. It wasn't just today; it was the grit of the Celtics. You think about it; they blew that big lead at home in game 5 of this series to go down 3-2 in the series, had to go back to Milwaukee for game 6, and they pulled it out. And in the process, they were the first and only team in this series to win 2 games in a row. And of course, those were the last 2 games in this series. Now, the Bucks lost, but it wasn't because of a lack of effort from Giannis Antetokounmpo, as he averaged nearly 34 points for this series, more than 7 assists and nearly 15 boards. But he was missing his tag team partner. Let's not forget that, as Chris Middleton was out for this series with the MCL injury that he suffered in the first round. And you just have to wonder how things would have been different for the Bucks had they had the services of Middleton, because let's not forget he takes a lot of big shots coming down the stretch of games for Milwaukee. And we saw that last year in the conference finals when Giannis went down with the injury. We saw Middleton step up. We saw him step up again last year in the NBA Finals when the Bucks were able to erase that 2-0 deficit in the series to come back and win the next 4 versus the Phoenix Suns. But on the flip side for the Celtics, we really saw the maturation of Jason Tatum, and we've really seen it throughout this playoff run so far for Boston. You go back to the first round against the Brooklyn Nets, and Jason Tatum, he simply had ice water in his veins, and we saw that again in Game 6, most notably in this series, as he went for 46 on the road when his team needed him the most. Now, for this series, Tatum averaged more than 27 and a half points per game. But you think about, today with game 7, he was in foul trouble. He had that run late in the second quarter where he got 3 fouls consecutively and he had to step out of the game. And then that questionable offensive foul in the third quarter today. And, after that, he came back into the game. He hunkered down. He didn't try to force the ball, most importantly, but you know what? He relied on his teammates as well. 6 big assists. He also had 8 rebounds. And it's big because he was able to calm down and play unselfish. And that's been a big thing for the Celtics all season long. Team ball, selflessness, and going out there and doing whatever it takes at both ends of the floor in order to win this contest. Now, for me, game 7 was decided between the end of the second quarter and the early stages of the fourth. You go back to the final seconds of the first half when Giannis turned the ball over. Marcus Smart, it looked like it was a meaningless shot, but Marcus Smart was attempting to take that shot. Giannis got called for the foul, and then Smart proceeded to make all 3 free throws. And instead of Milwaukee being down just 2 points at the half, they've now found themselves down 5. I talked about Tatum picking up his 4th foul, And Milwaukee was unable to take advantage of that. They were settling too much for 3-point shots, and they were just building bricks. And then by the time that Tatum came back into the game, it was too little too late, because you figure at that point, a lot of these unsung heroes for the Celtics stepped up. Jalen Brown stepped up in the absence of Tatum in that third quarter, came up with some key baskets. And then, of course, the contributions of the likes of Peyton Pritchard and, of course, Grant Williams. There are always, and I mean always, unsung heroes in game 7 and win or go home situations. And we saw that today for the Celtics with Grant Williams, as he chimed in with 27 big points, and then Peyton Pritchard off of that bench with 14 points as well. Now, I think also something that is you have to think about with this series, especially with game 7 today, more or less, is Milwaukee's inability to take advantage of their size advantage. They did out rebound Boston today by 56-46, but nonetheless, they just didn't get it done. We saw Brooke Lopez come up with some big blocks early on in this game, but the thing is, they, being Milwaukee, they never got it going, and more importantly, the Celtics defensively never allowed Giannis to get it going with the bully ball. We saw a lot of offensive fouls on both teams being called in this contest today. And for Milwaukee, it really took them out of the flow of what they tried to do. But honestly, at the end of the day, credit to the Celtics defense. Now, when I talk about the defense, the Celtics were tops during the regular season in the NBA in regards to opponents' points allowed. And defense is the name of the game so far in this postseason. Why? Because 3 out of the top 4 teams in points allowed during the regular season are currently in the conference finals. And if Dallas is able to knock off Phoenix tonight, it will be all 4 teams. So that just lets you know how important that it is. And defense was the name of the game for the Celtics. It's been that way all season long. And then on top of that, the hustle. We saw Boston out hustle Milwaukee to some loose balls throughout the game today at both ends of the court. We saw the Celtics hustling on fast breaks. We saw the Celtics hustling to get putbacks. And you know what? Those things, they don't show up in the stat column theoretically, but they do. Because if you make enough hustle plays, typically at the end of the game, the most important stat is going to be in your favor, and that's is who scored more points than the other team. And then, of course, today it was the Celtics getting the best of the Bucks. Now, the impact of Al Horford and Marcus Smart. And we saw Horford return to the Celtics this season, after, being away for a little bit. But, Horford is back. He's an anchor on that back line for that team. And he's also a leader in the locker room. And you cannot underscore the importance of that. And then Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart is just one of those gritty guys that is going to do whatever it takes to win at both ends of the floor. We see that Smart gives the Celtics another ball handler. And on top of that, his heart, his ruggedness, his determination, and his defense are always on center stage. And of course, the people of Boston appreciate players like that, because you need players like that on any championship team. Now, Ime Udoka, he's in his first year as the Celtics head coach. And you know what? We're seeing the impact that he's having. The Celtics, again, very good defensively. They're just like dialed in right now. And again, at both ends of the court, they're just simply doing whatever it takes to win. Now, on the flip side for the Bucks, you have to ask, what's next for them. And, Milwaukee's still going to be very formidable in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you look at it, and, most of their big guys, or their stars rather, they're locked up right now. Of course, Giannis is on a contract for the next several years. He's not going anywhere. So is Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. Brooke Lopez, he's under contract through next season. Bobby Portis has a player option for next season. And I don't see Bobby Portis coming back to make less than $5 million like he did this year. Somebody's going to offer Bobby Portis a lot of money on free agent market. The ball is going to be in his hands. Does he want to come back and have another shot to get a ring, another ring potentially? Or is he going to go out there and cash in? So that's up to him. And nobody can really be mad at Bobby Portis, if he were to follow the dollar. Pat Connaughton is another player with a player option next season for next season. So let's see what happens there. But nonetheless, the Bucks have their nucleus in place. They lost PJ Tucker from last year's championship team. He was solid as a perimeter defender. And of course, now you see that because he's with the Miami Heat as they're getting ready for the Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. So at the end of the day, the Bucks are not going anywhere. They're still going to be a very formidable team in the Eastern Conference. This was just a tough loss for them. Obviously, not having Chris Middleton throughout this series definitely made a difference, but I do expect them to come back strong and make another run at the NBA championship for next year. But for the Celtics, it's on to the Eastern Conference Finals and the Miami Heat, a team that knocked them out in the conference finals 2 years ago in the playoff bubble. And for the Celtics, they're looking to get back to the finals for the first time since 2010. They're looking to win the finals NBA championship for the first time since 2008. This team of Tatum, Smart, and Brown, they've been so close in recent years. So now we're going to find out in a matter of days if they're going to be able to find a way to finally get over the hump as a unit and get to the NBA finals. But nonetheless, you got to tip your hat to the Celtics. They dug down, they did whatever it took. They continuously pulled themselves out of a rut in this series. They lost game one at home. And a lot of people thought, well, you know what, they're going to be fighting an uphill battle. They came back and won game two, had a legitimate chance to win game three on the road and didn't. And then with everything stacked against them, they came back and won game four in Milwaukee, blew that lead in game five. A lot of people thought they were done, and they pulled it out in game six and they found a way. That's what championship teams are made of. Not saying that Celtics are going to be a championship team this year, but nonetheless, they are showing a lot of grit and character. And that is a big reason why they have advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.